Okay, so let's talk about the hardest kind of conflict. It's not with your peers, not with your roommates, and not with your friends. It's with authority. The boss, the professor, supervisor, the person who signs off on your work or your grades or your schedule or your paycheck. So if you've ever felt your chest like tighten before you send an email or you've rehearsed like 10 times in your head and then still didn't say it, like telling yourself, well, it's probably not worth it. Well, you got something tapping inside you, just like, oh, I know I should say something. I know I should say something. You are not weak. You are human and you've been actually trained. So paradigmatics change how our nervous systems behave. And today I want to help you learn how to speak, how to speak up and stand your ground without collapsing, without becoming small and shrinking, and without becoming aggressive or completely abandoning your own experience. So hang with me here, okay? I'm Leezá Steinorf. I'm an international leadership coach, a member of the Forbes Coaches Council, and I've been helping professionals and emerging leaders for decades around the world feel their ground, to find their voice, and to create success the way it means something to them. And I want to speak about why authority feels so different when we're trying to find our own voice. And this is what nobody tells you. Your body is reading authority as survival, something you need to get through. And even when nothing dramatic is happening, when the person's nice, when some part of your system is still tracking for approval, wanting to belong, possible consequences or safety, and if you've had a childhood or a background in your own young adulthood that has not been safe, or there has been rife with confrontation, or where you've been made to feel small, all the more, then it gets even bigger. So when something feels off to you, your instinct isn't clarity. That need to shrink isn't because something is actually happening out there. It's that you've learned that you need to protect yourself. And you either go quiet or you over explain or you soften your truth so nobody's going to get upset, and or you tell yourself, just wait, it's okay, don't worry about it. But you're giving up on yourself. And in the long run, actually, resentment starts to build toward the other person. And also maybe toward yourself because you're not taking a stand for yourself. And that's not because you're flawed. It's literally biology. It's how your nervous system has learned to respond to situations that feel threatening to you. So the skill here isn't learning to be brave, it's how to regulate. And I'm going to explain what that means, okay? What we want to get clear on is what you are actually in need of before you speak. Before you talk to someone in authority, you really only need, I'm going to say, one thing, internal clarity. You need to be clear on what it is that you want and what's going on for you. It doesn't have to be a perfect argument or, something you can pen perfectly in a letter. It's being clear. Clarity in situations like this often becomes very challenging to establish because when we feel we have to protect ourselves, we're in the back brain, we're in that fight, flight, or freeze. And then we're not up here in the frontal lobe, which is what helps us get logical and what are the facts and what is present for me. So that clarity is often elusive when we feel we have to protect ourselves. So in getting clear, you can do a couple things. Ask yourself these questions. What actually happened? How did it land in me? How did I receive that? What matters here to me? And lastly, what do I want different than what's here right now? And most people skip through all of that and they go right into performance or action, right? They build a case to justify themselves, or they shrink and make their desire or their request nominal. Authority conversations go best when you're anchored in your own experience and you're not trying to convince anybody. Like if I asked you, for example, what is your name or your height or where were you born, you wouldn't argue with me. You wouldn't feel defensive because those are truths for you. I'm this tall, this is my name, and I was born there. Leezá Steinorf, 5'8", and I was born in Colorado Springs. Simple. But If somebody comes to you and challenges your authority or challenges something that you feel you did well or challenges something that you want, ooh, then we go up. We totally leave that ability to just state the facts, okay? And you don't need to prove yourself. You don't have to prove your value at all, but you do get to name the impact, what's present for you. And that's a very different posture. So that's the first part. That's getting clear. And now we're going to look at ownership. What you own always is your experience, your truth, your feelings, your thoughts, and your actions. You are never responsible for someone else. You can't be. And when you take responsibility for yourself, you're taking 100% responsibility. And that doesn't mean blame, doesn't mean shaming yourself, it means ownership. And that is really powerful. So this may be a little more subtle. When you speak to authority from fear, you're actually believing that they have power and you don't. You believe that they have power and you don't. You don't lose your power because you're talking to someone who has a authority position or a name on the door at all. When you speak from your grounded ownership, you have all of your power and you're inviting mutual respect from the other person. So ownership sounds something like, this is what I experienced. This is how it affected my work. This is what I need to move forward well. You're not angry, you're not attacking. You always, and you also don't go the other way. Oh, I'm probably wrong, but you don't apologize for yourself. Or you also, I don't want to be difficult and couch, just, I'd like to share what I'm experiencing. This would be useful. That I found challenging. Can you hear the difference in that? Just like naming your name and height and where you're born, you don't need to apologize for having your experience. It's a valid experience. You're not telling them what their experience is, and they don't get to tell you what your experience is, but they can tell you what their experience is, just like you are telling them what yours is. It sounds kind of dumb, but you don't have to ask permission to be human, right? Like you just are. And this is really important to understand early in your career because then you walk through your profession grounded in your personal authority of you. So I have kind of a heretical definition of confidence. It's not being bold and putting on a front and all this stuff. It really comes from internal authority. You don't have to perform confidence. When you have that sense of self and when you feel comfortable in standing in that place, even when you're facing authority, that is confidence. It's internal strength. It's knowing who you are. Okay? All right, and now we're going to talk about resolution. How can you integrate and bring alignment into what you're experiencing and what you're saying and doing in the world? So we're going to make it concrete. Super simple structure that you can use with any kind of supervisor, authority figure, managers, professors, senior colleagues, what have you. You start relational. Engage the other person. Thanks for taking the time to meet with me. I really appreciate that. Okay? Then you name the moment. So why we're here, right? Context. So I want to talk to you about what happened in yesterday's meeting, right? So far. Now you share the impact, what your experience was. When my idea was passed over, I noticed I felt discouraged because contributing really matters to me. So you've named the fact, you've named your feelings, and also why it's important to you. And then you can go on and explain. So I want to feel engaged, and I would like to be clear about how my engagement fits here. And then you can ask, right? So far you've not done anything to dismiss them or distance them. You're speaking from your experience. You're telling a story of you, and people will listen to that, usually, unless they are just wired for defensiveness. Then you ask, would you be willing to let me finish next time or tell me directly if something doesn't land? That's it. And then notice if there's anything missing in what you've said. Maybe they're going to fill something in, and then speak to that as well. You don't need to accuse. There's no blame. You're not even dumping your emotions. And may I say here, if you have really strong emotions, go process them. Get clear on them. Feel them. They are valid. And they may even have a place in a conversation. But again, it's going to be, how are you going to be sharing that? Okay? So your presence is key. It's absolutely key. And you're not trying to manage their feelings. You're speaking your truth cleanly. And that's professional maturity, which dovetails right into excellence. And excellence, the way I speak about it, is not perfection. It's standing in and coming from your highest and best. And that's leadership before you even ever have a title. And it doesn't mean you have to dominate the room. It means you stay connected to yourself while you engage with someone who has more positional power. That's all. It may look like slowing down your speech or taking a breath before you respond. They share, and then you just consider. You don't have to over-explain. You can listen to them without shrinking. You can still stand in yourself and hear another person's point of view. You can hold both of those. Sometimes it's something we need to learn, but we can learn it. I know I have had to. And then you can ask clarifying questions. Oh my God, questions are like the hidden, the absolute secret sauce. So holding your boundary kindly and standing in your strength, man, that's so powerful. And sometimes authority figures will respond really beautifully to that. If they're also professionally mature, boy, they're going to recognize that as internal authority. And sometimes they won't. But that's not your job to control that outcome. Your job is to remain aligned within yourself and be consistent. And that's how you build internal authority, not only within yourself, but also in your environment, in your professional field. And internal authority always comes before external authority. Always. Okay? So I'd like to offer you a mini practice before another hard conversation. And maybe there's situations where you know that there often are hard conversations there. So this is what I'm going to offer you to try out. Take a moment right now and think of one authority conversation that maybe you've been avoiding or that happens consistently. Okay? Have that in mind. All right. So now answer this question. What do I actually want them to understand? Like, what's important for me here for them to understand? And the next one is, what do I need or want to do my best work? So you're getting clear within yourself. And then the last thing is, what's one clear, respectful request that you could make? Just one. And write all that down. It doesn't have to be perfect, just be honest. And that's your compass. You don't have to read that, but having that knowing within yourself and walking into that conversation that way will be so huge. Or even doing it now for whenever that conversation may take place. Okay? So the next time you feel intimidated or an authority figure feels overwhelming, just try it out. Put one hand on your chest, slow your breathing, and remind yourself, I'm allowed to take up space in this conversation. I have internal authority. It does not matter what your title is. I'm allowed to take up space in this conversation. I have internal authority. And then you speak from your experience and you don't have to defend yourself. And literally that shift to standing in that place in yourself, it's huge. And it sounds kind of crazy, but you don't become powerful by being overpowering, right? You just stay rooted in yourself and you speak your truth. And real authority does not mean hierarchy. It does not mean superiority, right? It means you're playing the role that's been given you or that you choose. And you get to be a whole human being inside that role. So you get to learn to speak up early and be clear with warmth and self-respect. And then you will save literally years of tension within yourself, of, of quiet resentment, and of not really going for what you want because you're staying shrunk. You don't have to do that. Okay, so this is really building your professional backbone, I'm going to say, gently and steadily over time. All right, so if this message resonates with you, tell me in the comments. Maybe share what kind of an authority situation you're dealing with right now. And next, we're going to talk about boundaries and how you can say no and clarify expectations and stop overfunctioning without feeling guilty. Okay, so there's another piece coming. If you found this useful, go ahead and subscribe so you know when those new ones come out, and share it with someone. Share it with people in the office if you feel it's useful. All right? Thanks for listening. Be well.